video that may be useful for people purchasing a first pipe. It can be useful also people, say, wanting to get their very first artisan pipe or their first nice expensive pipe or something like that. You'll see a lot of these threads come up on various fora, and people give all kinds of advice. And here's some considerations that I have and have had when recently, in the past year or two, I kind of stepped up, started collecting some more expensive pipes, and wanted to put a little bit more thought into which pipes I was getting. And I don't see these concerns brought up a lot, so I thought I'd share them because I think they're maybe helpful for some of you guys. Especially if it's something of a commitment you're making in buying a pipe. If it's like your first nice pipe, whether for your budget, if that's your first like factory pipe as opposed to a corn cob or a cheap estate, whether that's your first artisan pipe, whether it's your first like $200 pipe and you've been buying like $60 Savinellis and Stanwells or whatever the case may be. This was something that I thought about smoking my Meerschaum because it was a concern I had when buying a Meerschaum pipe. Some of these things went into it. One thing I think you should think about is what you're looking to get out of the pipe. Especially if it's a first pipe where you're breaking into a new price bracket. Say you have a few pipes and they're cheap estates or good factory level pipes, but you're wanting something a little special. One thing that was important for me in making such a decision was I looked at what I already had in my collection. When going from factory, especially lots of estate factory pipes to artisan pipes, or to higher, nicer factory pipes or what have you. One of the things I thought about when I was buying my Stanwell Nana Iverson pipe, when I was buying my Meerschaum pipe, etc., was I have a lot of billiards already, some bent billiards. A lot of factories, and billiards are pretty basic shape, and factories a lot of times do at least a decent job of making a basic shape. So when I was going to splurge and buy an artisan pipe, I wanted something a little bit different, something I wasn't really going to get in a factory pipe, something I didn't have already. So when I did that, I looked around and I wanted either some sort of curvy Danish influence like you see on the shank of this pipe. The shank isn't straight, it's sort of curved up, not just bent, but it curves as it moves toward the stem. If you don't really like Danish style, that's cool. You might think about adding something that you're not usually going to get on a factory pipe. When I bought my first handmade artisan pipe, I got a Joe Hinkle, which was a straight pipe, but it has a much nicer blast than most factory pipes do, better grain orientation, has a Cumberland stem, which you can find on factory pipes and estate pipes, but not quite as often. And it has an exotic wood stem inlay. So I had him go with a Buckeye burl stem inlay, which is kind of a fancy, kind of swirly grain pattern that, again, is not something you're going to find by and large on a factory pipe. Probably not on an old estate pipe. So if you're looking for a new pipe, maybe consider getting something that you can't get in either a factory pipe or an estate pipe or whatever your current level is. Look for something you wanted instead of just going for a really plain billiard, even though it might be a bit nicer billiard than you're used to. I'd go for that little bit of extra pop. Another thing I considered, and this again may be different, some of you guys may want to buy a nice pipe and that be your special occasion pipe. You may want to, grab something like a churchwort, which you may not be able to smoke when you're on the go, but for special occasions you want to pull out your long stem pipe, or your fancy pipe, or your big pipe. For me, and you may feel the same way, when I was thinking of shelling out more money than I usually do for a pipe, my thought was, I want this to be a pipe I get to enjoy a lot. I want it to be a pipe I can pull out a lot. And so I wanted it to be a size pipe that would be something I could easily clinch, because I like clinching. And I knew if I couldn't clinch the pipe, I would only be able to smoke it when I was sitting down and doing nothing else, which usually a lot of times when I smoke, I'm doing something else. You want it to maybe be the right size pipe where, if you get a huge pipe that's going to take you 2 hours to finish the bowl, you're not going to probably get to enjoy that as often as you're going to get to have a smaller 45-minute or hour-long or half-hour smoke that you might get out of a smaller pipe. Likewise, if you find, like I do, and this is a topic for another video, that I like Virginias in a slightly smaller bowl, maybe a 3/4 inch diameter, maybe a slightly smaller, slightly larger, but around that 3/4 inch range. If I like smoking Virginias a lot, which I do, I'm getting a new pipe, I maybe want to be a pipe I can dedicate to Virginias, because I pipe dedicate, and I do that generally around those specific sizes. So I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on a pipe and then never get to smoke it because it's a weird shape that I just don't reach for that often. I don't have enough time for it, or I don't have the attention to devote to it, like right now when I'm driving. So think about some of those extra features you might want. You can get a nice Danish style pipe with a curdy shank more often in an artisan pipe. So if you're jumping into the artisan market, think about that. Is that something I want that I can't get? Can only get it when I do an artisan purchase with that much money. Maybe you should be wise and choose, I'm going to go for that Danish bent shank, or I'm going to go for that stem inlay or shank extension, or whatever it is that you're probably not going to get on a factory pipe. And then also, you may really like church wardens. I think they're pretty neat, but if you're going to splurge and a church warden is a splurge, is it going to be something you can actually smoke that often? Maybe with your smoking schedule it is. But maybe you want to get a pipe, if you're spending, a special occasion, got a lot of money to spend on it, you want to get a lot of enjoyment out of it and use it as much as possible, maybe think about something that might be a little more practical. Obviously, it's nice sometimes to have something that's not practical. But I thought when I was getting a Meerschaum, and I kept looking into all the IMP Meerschaums most posted on smoking pipes, I kept thinking, I want to get a Meerschaum I can smoke often, I can smoke whenever I want to, because I want to see it color. If I only smoke it like once a month or once every 2 months because it's a huge pipe that, I have to sit down with and have a special smoking occasion, it's going to take forever to color. Likewise, if you smoke outside a lot, a Meerschaum may not be something you want to splurge on because they're a little bit temperamental. They can break in cold weather because of temperature differentials and things. So maybe you should go for a Briar instead. A lot of times when people say, what pipe should I get? You're going to get brand name recommendations. You're going to get recommendations of, I think this artisan is really good, or I like this one. But here, I've just given you a few considerations that I think may be helpful, that depending on whose style you like, depending on which factories you tend toward or don't tend toward, may help you if you're like I am and you want that special purchase to be something you really get to enjoy a lot, rather than something where you splurge a bunch and then never really enjoy it because you can only get it, use it in special occasions, etc. So those are my thoughts. If any of you others have any other tips, feel free to share. If you do a video reply, send me a link or just post a comment. Happy puffin'!